Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to Blink Table Talks session number 7. Today we have Ahsan Ahmad with us. Ahsan bhai has been a long time customer of Blink, and today we are going to talk to him about his journey of operating multiple international brands in and outside of Pakistan, and also building his own cloud kitchen venture. So thank you Ahsan bhai for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
For our audience, I would first request you if you can give a brief sort of overview about your own career and how did you enter this food and beverage industry and how long have you been associated with it?
So I've been with the food industry for almost 18 years.
Nice.
And I believe I'm an accidental food entrepreneur. It so happened that after graduation, I was told by my elders to work for 4 years. And until I had done that, I was not supposed to even think about starting anything. So I went into Islamic banking, stayed there for 4 years. And then when I was ready to start my business, I started it with a retail store. And that was a bookstore. And as it happens in multiple businesses, because you have fancy ideas, I tried all those ideas. None of those worked. And 1.5 years later, I was ready to go back into the industry because I had kitchen expenses. So just when I was thinking of going back, in fact, I was offered by Islamic banking setup. I was almost ready to join and sign the offer letter. I met one of my relatives who runs Pizza Hut. And back at that time, Pizza Hut was doing extremely well. And he said, "Where are you off to?" I'm like, "I'm joining ABN AMRO Islamic Banking again." So he's like, "All right." Half an hour later, I get a call from his HR person. "Can you meet us?" I'm like, "Okay." "What are you getting as an offer from them?" I said, "These are the details." He said, "Okay, we are matching it. Can you join us from tomorrow?" I'm like, and the best part was the offer allowed me to run my own bookstore as well. So I'm like, okay, yeah, let's have the best of both worlds. So that's how I entered the food industry. And once I got there, I think I just got captivated by it and haven't been able to leave it.
How much time did you spend at Pizza Hut and where did you go after that, and like quick summary?
So I spent about 7 years in Pizza Hut. Started as the head for business development for them, and then I rose to a rank of GM before finding out that Domino's in Pakistan needed some help, and my career actually needed some help as well. So I got a chance to join them as the CEO. Stayed there for 3 years. Had a mandate of fixing it and getting it back on its feet. So finished that, and then I went to Saudi, where got a chance to work for Domino's Pizza Middle East. Came back after a couple of years, and then got a chance to launch IHOP in Pakistan, and that was my last assignment.
Great experience to work with so many amazing brands which everyone recognizes and everyone relates to. What is 2030 Kitchen?
So 2030 Kitchen was an idea that I think first came into my mind back in 2007 or 2008. So I remember I was in Lahore for a visit, and I called up my boss, who was an Australian, and I said, "Have we considered doing delivery using the digital platform?" And he said, "Ahsan, why would you do that? We're doing so well. The dine-in business is extremely good for us. Why would we even get into delivery, and for that matter, digital?" And I'm like, "Richard, I think it's written on the wall that's where the economy, that's where the behaviors are going to head, and anyone who gets into it is going to reap all the benefits." He said, "Can you please focus on same store growth?" And to be honest, Pizza Hut had incredible momentum. And that was without focusing on delivery. Anyway, so that idea came back then. I think I'm quite stubborn. I didn't let go of that idea. Kept on pushing someone to take it in Pizza Hut. They didn't accept it. So in 2010, I created the first business idea. Back then, pitch decks were not talk of the town.
Yeah.
And we created a business idea. And I met a few friends. And man, it was one painful presentation because I got kicked left, right, and center. Nobody thought that this is something that's going to happen. I'm like, okay. So I realized that, and the biggest question that I was asked at that stage was, why do you think you're someone who can do this? And I said, look at my experience at Pizza Hut. And he said, no, you have to have some track record. So the Domino's assignment was done with the intent that if I can be part of a turnaround, then I can tell an investor that, you know what, you can get into this. So that's how it all started. I still felt that digital and delivery was something that will grow later on. Lo and behold, COVID hit us. And I think all those things were proven true. So, but all this time, I was employed because of my own personal challenges. So eventually, I got a chance to leave it all and raise some capital for 2030. We call ourselves 2030 for the simple reason that I think there is a need for a brand that can do less than 20 minutes delivery. Anyone that can do that will eventually rule or the delivery segment. And we thought that there should be 30 options for us to choose from. So if a client can get 30 options, less than 20 minutes delivery, then if you fail, then it's purely a operational issue. So that's how it all came.
What's your current footprint of 2030 kitchen? How many brands, how many locations right now?
So of course, we are planning to have a total of 200 units in the country because that's something that we feel can give us a sizable advantage. And our units are quite small. So it's practically 30 meters that is needed for a 2013 kitchen. We've broken it down into multiple phases. In the first phase, we intended to have 6 units. We've put those up. And of the 30 brands, we started with 4 brands. The next stage is where we add another 18 stores to take the network to 24. But we intend to try and limit ourselves in one city only, because unless you have a network, you cannot get to 20 minutes. And then, of course, beyond 24, let's see how much time it takes us to get to 200.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people are thinking that cloud kitchens were a thing of COVID alone, and now that the COVID is over, people want to go back to malls, people want to dine in, people want to go out. And so how have been your experience in operating during COVID and after COVID, and have you seen the shift? And with the shift, what do you see as the future of cloud kitchens?
So like I mentioned, my belief about cloud kitchen is not a product of COVID. And it for me, being an insider of the food industry, I could see these things happen. And the reason I'm saying this is that while we were in Pizza Hut, it was during that time when Domino's internationally started denting Pizza Hut using delivery only model. But unlike a cloud kitchen where there is no takeaway, Domino's had a takeaway plus delivery model. So it was more of it was certainly a movement away from dine in, but not cloud. So I think cloud is here to stay, not because of COVID, but because that's the natural transition that a food business would take. But those who are getting into cloud, because of the COVID, they're the ones who are nervous right now because now they don't know what to do, how to get sales.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think your track record of dealing with these brands for the last 15 years will help you now to build a business outside of COVID, because you have done that before COVID as well.
No, I think it's simple maths. So I'll try and explain that. So a Pizza Hut store of 100 plus seats and a footprint of about, let's say, 400 square meter. It used to cost us anywhere between $400,000 to $600,000.
Dollars. Okay.
Even back in those days, if you to set up a good store. Now, I was lucky. I got a chance to work for Domino's. A Domino's store would cost us $100,000 to $150,000.
1/5 of that.
So imagine you're saving that capital upfront.
Yeah.
And if you're in Pakistan, where you have the ability to hold the contractors for 10 years and not pay them, that capital is there.
Yeah.
The capex, you saved capex, you have some capital left because you not paid people, use that for marketing. So it is easier for you to penetrate into the neighborhood. So you save that cash. Now, secondly, there's a transition happening within the industries. Now, in the developed countries, people have been ordering food not because it's entertainment, it's because something that I call kitchen replacement, because they don't want to cook at home. They want to save that time, or they don't have that time. Now, when that shift is happening, where people are moving away from food as an entertainment to food as a necessity, then it's a growing sample size. So all you have to do is to become that organism that exists while this sample size or that canvas increases. And if you're doing a reasonable job of product, service, and image, then it's natural that you will get business. So I think cloud business would do well if you have your fundamentals in place. Absence of fundamentals, and you get into cloud because COVID has created that opportunity, you're not going to do well.
Talking about cloud kitchen, so one of the most important players or one of the most important stakeholders in a cloud, for a cloud brand or for a cloud kitchen brand are aggregators. How do you see their role, and how do you see to manage them well? It's a love-hate relationship that all brands, all cloud kitchens and F&B industry in general have that. How have you dealt with them, and what measures have you taken to reduce your dependency on them?
So I think it's rather unfortunate that brands have developed an adversarial relationship with aggregators. And I think it's also unfortunate that the aggregators have also not handled that very well. So I think both parties are to be blamed for the current misunderstanding that exists. The way I see it is that aggregators are a very important member of this entire ecosystem. And the first thing you have to do is to stop thinking of them as adversaries. And again, go back to maths. Maybe I'm fond of maths. I've taught maths for 9 years, so everything it boils down to mathematics for me.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that if you look at maths and you see how much it is costing you to service an order, and how much it is costing you to generate that order, if you know your own numbers and you compare that with the cost that an aggregator is charging, you will be amazed that an aggregator may be charging you a premium, but when you bring in your own inefficiencies and you look at your own numbers, it is actually costing brands more to service it themselves and to acquire the customer themselves. So I think that for cloud kitchens, it is important that they start befriending aggregators and working closely with them.
So, and what has been the role of direct ordering channels in your business, and how do you think like that plays a role if you believe that the cost of that is higher? What benefits are there? Why would brands, especially Domino's, if we see like globally, they have been pushing their own channels for the last 10 years when a lot of other businesses were not even thinking about it. Why do they do that? Number one, and what has been your experience with 2030 Kitchen?
So I was again quite lucky that in 2018 there was this convention of the rally of Domino's in Vegas, and I was there where the transition happened and the old CEO president left and a new gentleman took over. I remember he went on stage and gave us the vision for 2025, and in that he was quite clear that Domino's internationally needs to operate without reliance on aggregators. So much so that I think we were also mandated to try and work without the aggregators. And then, of course, I left Domino's. But what I realized was that after a few months or quarters, there was the relaxation in their stance. And what is possibly happening now is that they are allowing the aggregators to generate the orders. At least that's what's happening in Pakistan. But the delivery is being done by Domino's itself. Again, I don't want to quote Domino's because I'm no longer there, but I'm saying this as an observer. So I think that there's been a shift in how that's has happened. And as far as the future of Cloud Kitchen is concerned, I think the right mix would include using multiple combinations of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in certain neighborhoods, it would be better for you to have full reliance on aggregators. In certain markets, it would be better that you have a hybrid model where you have both there. And in certain segments, you can actually go on the other side of the spectrum and say that, okay, you're not going to work with an aggregator in this
What would be the metrics based on which you would be taking those decisions?
So, number one, you have to make sure that you put service as the first and foremost metric.
So wherever the brand is able to serve the customers in the best way. So whether through aggregator or direct.
Absolutely. So so to put service ahead, if the reality is that an aggregator does a better job than you, then you might as well not get into it. Just let the aggregators run it. And the other spectrum is that if, let's say, in a particular area they have supply issues, or if their team is weak, that the riders are there but the logistic team just doesn't coordinate well, again they will suffer. So you make that hard call, and you said, okay, these are certain neighborhoods where we not work.
And this is primarily from the logistics and operational perspective. On the demand generation perspective and customer data ownership perspective, because when you get an order from an aggregator, you don't get any customer data. Is it important as a brand owner? How important is it for you, and what would you advise to aspiring brands? How important it should be for them to know exactly who's consuming their food, where do they live, what's their phone number, so that they can re-engage with them. From that perspective, how would you compare the two options, aggregators and direct ordering?
So again, I will go back to maths over here and try and foster a abundance mentality here. Now, to make a particular restaurant work well for you, you just need about 100 orders a day. That's like a ballpark
per location.
So you need about 100 orders from a neighborhood, and you'll do reasonably well. Or every stakeholder, from a rider all the way up to the investor, will be happy if you can get that magical number of 100 per neighborhood. Now, in Pizza Hut time, when we used to do mapping, we were opening a Pizza Hut for close to about 150,000 households. So a particular Pizza Hut would service 150,000 households. When I came to Domino's, I realized that they were going as aggressive as opening a store for 10,000 neighborhoods, for 10,000 households. Now my point is, if somebody is struggling to generate 100 orders from a neighborhood of 10,000 households, or for that matter, 150,000 households if it's Pizza Hut, then the issue is not the aggregators. The issue is with you. And people, they don't like to go in and accept that actually the fault lies in your own ability to acquire customers. Now aggregator has done well, and they have created a customer base. Now that's their success.
Yeah.
Now the issue is that the current brands and the current genre of people who are running restaurants, they don't want to make the effort to get a sizable chunk of that 10,000. Because I'm not willing to work hard. What's an easier option? I can blame you as the aggregator that you're not letting me own the data.
Yeah.
So the core issue in my opinion is not the fact that you don't own the data. The core issue is you don't own the data because you're not willing to do the effort.
What has been Blink's role in helping you acquire customers and in 2030 Kitchen's current success or operations or on their journey? What has been Blink's role overall?
So a restaurant should ideally focus on the basics. So you make sure that you're acquiring the right ingredients at a good price. Then you're training your people to produce the product well. And then you're training your people to make sure that they're fast on their feet and they deliver it within the right time. Now, these are the critical elements. Now, this itself is something that takes 90% to 95% of your time. And you shouldn't have to look at anything else. Now, you add on to this the responsibility of setting up your own e-commerce store. And then thinking about how to run it so that there aren't any bugs. And the biggest bug is in understanding that it's not how the e-commerce store looks, it's how it behaves. If, let's say, everyone in that neighborhood gets on the network and they start ordering, it crashes. So Blink's role has been very simply that they have allowed us to try and spend as much time as we can on the basics. So we don't have to worry about, okay, what happens when, let's say, everybody comes in.
Yeah.
So I think that's been the biggest thing. And I'm not saying this because you're there, but I think you've also managed to get together a group of fantastic individuals who are available on the phone. They're willing to listen to us. And I think as business owners, what bothers us the most is when service providers, they shut the phone and they're not willing to listen. Yes, I mean, we may have our issues that, okay, I want 10 changes and your team might feel that I'm asking too much, and then we have to negotiate. Now I think that's something that should be there, because sometimes our requirements can be extremely silly. But other than that, I think what you've done is that you've managed to get people who are willing to listen to us, and they're also willing to adjust.
One last question, like what would be, what's that one thing in your career that you have learned from Domino's, Pizza Hut and IHOP separately? Like one thing you learned from Domino's, one thing you learned from Pizza Hut, and one thing you learned from IHOP.
That's quite interesting.
Primarily from interaction with their global regional teams, as all of them have varied levels of success.
So in Pizza Hut, they used to word something by, they called it customer mania. And I think it is probably a word that's attributed to David Novak, who was the president of Pizza Hut. And in his book, Customer Mania, he has mentioned that the best way to make sure that your people expend or they handle the customers in the best way is to make sure that you treat them the way you want them to treat their customers. That's it. So I think simply, if you can just do that, it really translates into massive improvement in your business processes. So that's one thing that I learned over there. In Domino's case, we learned that even if you're a small player, you can really take on the giant. And that's what was the Domino's story. They took on Pizza Hut at a time when Pizza Hut was was, I mean, they had a lot of wind in their sail. And they set a target that in 10 years, so they had this thing called the 2020 vision, that in 10 years, they are going to get something. They had a metric where the retail index was, so they said that it's going to be in our favor. I am forgetting the actual metric. But in 4 years' time, I think, they were able to turn it around. So that's one thing that I learned from Domino's. IHOP was a very short stint, but what I realized over there was that they had an immense focus on product quality, and they did that by doing something that they call APL, which is approved product list. So somebody came from the US, he sat with us, he took one product, and then he asked us to bring all the ingredients that we are going to use. And he checked each and every ingredient and did not put anything in the APL until he felt that it would meet the international standards. And then when he locked the APL, they had something called Form 100, which was, if, let's say, at any time you're unable to source the ingredient, you jolly well make sure that you file the Form 100 and we approve it, and otherwise you're not going to change it. Now, by having these two documents in place, it resulted in product consistency. So that was a very interesting learning at IHOP.
Thank you so much, Ahsan bhai. Pleasure having you, and thanks for giving your time.
Likewise. Thank you for having me here.